What Q you know? I'm Frankie.
And I'm Ryan from the Coffee Break.
As you notice, today we didn't start off by saying welcome back to the weekly roundup, and that's because we're thinking about changing the format a little bit, right? With a new title called What Q You Know, taking inspiration from the Cantonese saying
Segment Q
Segment Q, right? So, but in terms of the content, it is still pretty much the same. Thanks to the Coffee Break for providing all the juicy news for us. But what's different this time round is that we are going to banter more into the details. We are going to have some sort of a debate on the latest news that is happening around the world. And apart from that, we are also going to introduce a new segment towards the end of the show, so stay tuned to the end to find out what is it really all about. Okay, so let's start off by talking about retirement in this aging society. Now, why we choose this topic is because earlier last week, EPF together with MOF, they collaborate and organize an event called the ISWC. It is an annual event to talk about retirement, investment and that kind of stuff. And this year's theme was actually retirement in an aging society. Ryan, where do you think Malaysian population is heading to? Like, do you see your friends giving birth to more children or what? Because based on official data, apparently Malaysia is entering aging society, and by 2040 or 2050, we may even be categorized as an aged society.
I'm not surprised, because they always, I think when it comes to aging society, they talk about displacement rate, right? Like how many young generations to come in, then to displace, people who are moving away from, even my friends, not a lot of them are married. And even if they're married, they choose to have 4 kids, or they may have 1 or 2. One, typical I've seen, if you go to restaurants these days, right?
More and more people just having 1 kid.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, right, if a couple only has 1 kid, technically speaking, you are reducing the population by 50% over the long term.
So the displacement is 0.5. It's 50% lah. You're absolutely right lah.
Yeah. So actually for myself, in a way, I deliberately wanted to have 2 children. That's because I sort of want to contribute to the society to make it neutral, but I didn't want to have 3 because 3 would mean that more financial pressure on the parents. There's more headaches to think about, having kids is also not easy, right? But me and my wife, we decided that we must at least contribute to the society and make it neutral, and therefore me and my wife, we have 2 kids. But I don't think me and my wife can help the nation as a whole. I think if we want to escape from this aging society kind of definition, right, then every Malaysian will have to give birth to more children to the next generation. So that's one side of the story. As technology become more and more advanced, and also social media and all that, you have fur kids, you have entertainment everywhere. People are starting to choose not to socialize physically more often. And I think that's one of the key reasons why people are not getting married, they don't want to have kids and stuff like that.
There are a lot of factors. This can become like a big segue, right?
Yeah.
Because you talk about men and women, how they are in the society. I think our parents' time, breadwinner was always the man. But now women can be the breadwinner also. I mean, as much as we talk about equality, and this becomes a more sensitive and it's a sensitive topic. It's very hard to navigate. But as women earn better than men, how does this apply to society? Can women accept that they will earn more than them? Yeah. Because you look at men, look at our parents. My father was a breadwinner, but now women are earning more. So how?
Gentle equality. Why must I be the one who give birth? Why can't we just have 4 kids?
Correct.
Maybe,
so
right?
It's a very touchy topic, and maybe we need to talk about it. As a society, we need to talk about it. Like, as a woman, are you okay with your partner earning less than you? Because ingrained in us all these years that a man should earn more than a woman. But how would this shift in dynamics?
Okay, so I think this is a structural issue that cannot be solved in 1 day or 2, right?
Yep.
Everyone must have a shift in terms of the mindset in order for the population to want to have more kids to nurture the next generation. So that part, I think we can't really solve it by ourselves. But what you know about retiring in an aging society? Do you think that if your life expectancy now grows up to, let's say, 100 years old, how are you going to save up until that amount for you to retire comfortably?
I think official retirement age in Malaysia is 60.
Yes.
You can withdraw from EPF at the age of 55 fully. And if you look at today's life expectancy, it's 75 years. So if you withdraw your EPF money at 55 fully, you got 20 years, to sustain.
Yes.
Right? In the 1960, the life expectancy was 57 years. Right? So you retire at 55, you withdraw, okay, you got 2 years to spend it all. In some sense, you have that 2 years. But now as technology advances grow, like you said, medical advances grow, people will live longer and longer and longer. And how does this retirement then come into picture? And having a low fertility rate in the country, not enough people having kids contribute to society, because when you are paying EPF and then you would have contribution to EPF, but when there are less and less people in the workforce, then that becomes an issue, right? Fewer and fewer people are contributing to any pension or retirement fund, right? And at 60, if you just do a bare calculation, 60, if you need 5,000 a month to sustain, and you need to sustain, let's say 15 years. So 5,000, 60 times 15, that's about 900,000, like almost 1 million. But a lot of Malaysians don't have 1 million in EPF.
Yeah, based on, I think, the official statistic, I think more than half of Malaysian population don't even have 10,000 ringgit in their EPF account. So again, the question, right? How could these people sustain their lifestyle after they reach 55 years old? I think we need to split this topic into two parts, right? One is what they can do prior to the age 55 in order to accumulate as much wealth as they could, and what they can do after 55 years old in order to sustain the lifestyle.
I think typically the first option is that you try to collect as much money as you can, work as hard as you can, not do any unnecessary withdrawals, and increase your salary, you jump jobs, you change jobs, you get your bonuses, then it builds up a pool of savings. Yeah. Or you contribute yourself even. Because you can get tax refund if you contribute yourself, right? You can get some tax relief. And that's probably the best way is by working.
But I think probably right now the audience will ask you, what Q you know about increasing my income? Because no matter how hard I work, right, it is still like 3,000 ringgit per month.
It is a legitimate question. I think it's either you change jobs or you upskill, which the government has avenues for you to upskill, right? Like I think the Human Resource Ministry, they are programs for you to upskill. At that point in time, they introduce a very basic AI program lah. You can look at resources that the government has made available for you to upskill. Plenty today. That's address the first problem. Second problem about what can they do after retirement is work lah, continue working. Very typical, right? I think you've probably seen a lot of people work until 60, 65, which is not a bad thing, because I think if you stop working, if you're not using your mental as much, you probably degrade. Right?
That's true.
Because you've worked all your life and suddenly you've got nothing to stimulate your mind anymore. That's why people say playing mahjong helps with dementia. Chinese people believe playing mahjong helps with dementia, because you work your brain. You have to calculate the odds, you have to look at who is holding what. So you're using your brain in some sense, right?
Maybe from the policy standpoint, perhaps the government may want to look at increasing the retirement age. Maybe not 60 anymore, and 65. Because if you're talking about living up to 100 years old, it makes sense to continue to work at least until like 75 maybe. I mean, the retirement age in Japan is much higher than Malaysia. A lot of all these aging nations, they all have pretty high retirement age compared to Malaysia. Maybe it's about time for Malaysia to also look into that as well, so that people can continue to be in the workforce and earn a living longer.
But is this what people want? Because you look at retirement, you look at, wow, I want until 55, I want to chill.
Yeah.
By the way, we're not advocating for gambling when it comes to mahjong. Just it can be very social,
it's just
right?
for brain
stimulation, right? Yeah, but come back, people think about wanting to retire at 55. I work all my life. I work from 25 to 55. Like, what else you want me to do? You want me to until 65, 40 years? Half of my life I spend time working. That may not bode well with the society. So I think France wanted to raise the retirement age and the unions were not happy with it.
Maybe one way to increase your wealth post 55 is to do some form of investment. And speaking of that, I think our next news has something got to do with stock market.
And of course, when it comes to investment, we have to talk about darling of the year.
Oh, the darling of the year is no other than Nvidia. Jensen Huang. There's an interesting news with Jensen Huang lately, right? I think he has become somewhat of a celebrity. He comes out from a conference.
Correct.
And people just all go to him.
I think he was in Taiwan speaking at, I think it was Computex. I think one of these big conferences. And he actually signed on a woman. And that picture, I think, went viral. And also, I talk about Nvidia. I think they're now the second most valuable company in the world, surpassing Apple.
Yeah. So they're just right behind Microsoft.
Yeah, $3 trillion. And that was all from this AI frenzy that has been happening at the start of the year.
Just now when we were curating the news, right, you have a very interesting theory about CEOs or leaders of the company signing on people's body. Can you maybe share with the audience what Q is that about?
I mean, probably signals the peak of the hype, right?
Because when every layman thinks that the leader of the company is
like a
godlike celebrity, right?
Yeah. Oh, you can sign on my body. I want you to sign on me. It's to the extent but CEOs have, I wouldn't say have never, but I think not so flashy. Not to say Jensen is flashy. He's not flashy. He wears leather jacket, wears black. But the fact that like people ask him to sign on the body, I think that's like a sign of peak. And in fact, I had someone ask me, is it a good time to invest in Nvidia? I was thinking, no, it's too late. First of all, you're too late, and you're probably not going to see much of capital gains anymore from this company, because you look at Apple, right? So I think someone also compared Apple, and we're going to talk about this as well. Apple's revenue is way higher than Nvidia's today. We're talking about 300 billion versus 30 billion for every quarter or so, along those figures. But yet, the market cap of Nvidia has surpassed Apple. Where is the...
Well, when people invest in the stock market, it's always about buying futures earnings today, right? You assign a present value of futures earnings, and therefore the valuation of the company is based on that.
Yep.
Maybe because with a lot of new product launches by Nvidia, people are envisioning that Nvidia is able to make even more money, maybe quadruple the profit in the next couple of years, and therefore it is beginning to price in today.
Likely the case. So when I tell people don't buy, it's probably out of my own investment safety margin that I would not buy this stock, because I know it's...
Maybe what I can get out of it is that you think that the market sentiment is overhyped up right now,
Yep.
and therefore the market is a little bit irrational about the valuation of the company, despite all the interesting launches,
Yep.
all the expectation that Nvidia is going to do very well in the future and all that. Probably it is time to have some consolidation on the share price for the valuation to taper down a little bit to a more fair kind of value.
In a way, but
Yeah.
they are also doing a stock split.
That is also creating another hype on the
Right.
stock.
So we've spoke about this and how they are doing a 10 for 1.
Yes.
And that would, again, bring even more investors to come in. Because now I have to pay $1,000, over $1,000 for a single Nvidia share. But with the 10 for 1 stocks, we have to pay 1/10 of that price. More retail investors would definitely more than happy to buy in. That's why I think people are asking, hey, is it a good time to buy? Because now I can afford.
Right. So what Q is in Nvidia that drives that hype today? Before you answer, right, this is my opinion. I think what Nvidia is trying to do, looking at all the initiatives that they are doing, is to try to take away the physical CPU that you have on your computer and host it in a data center or somewhere else,
Yep.
so that it has a bigger computing power, and all you have is the interface in front of you. And therefore, that is the leap in technology, and that would become the next trend of how people interact with technology.
Interact with your AI lah, pretty much, right? Because
AI lah.
today we are just typing on ChatGPT, typing on Gemini, and we get
Correct.
an output that we want.
Correct.
But will it be fast enough for AI to predict what we want? How would it change over the next 10 years? And can Apple still be in the game? Because Apple is known to be on the frontier of the UI at least. UX, UI part, Apple is on the frontier. But now with technology advancing so fast, can Apple still be at the front of it?
Yes, because when you talk about not having the CPU in front of the PC, right, technically speaking means that we will not be interacting in a laptop anymore. It can be in any form.
Yep.
Like today, we are already wearing a
Our
smartwatch.
smartwatches, you know.
Soon to be, all these Vision Pro and that kind of stuff, right? So computers has becoming part of a human body.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, you have Neuralink also.
Yeah, Neuralink.
Elon Musk,
right,
Neuralink,
Elon
right?
Musk, yeah. So all these things is happening, and therefore, when you have a powerful chip like what Nvidia is producing, perhaps that is something that a lot of investors are pricing it to the share price today.
You could be right, because
Yeah.
I don't know Q about this company. And fun fact, right? The last time Nvidia overtook Apple's market cap was more than 20 years ago, in 2002, and that was 5 years before the iPhone came out.
Oh, okay. So this is the second time that they did it.
Can they maintain their position there? That remains to be seen.
I think with their innovation, perhaps one day they may even surpass Microsoft.
Likely, it depends on what kind of news can they throw in or what kind of advancement again lah. I think chips-wise, they have announced, and how technology in existence today, how it interfaces with the internet, also has been announced. So the next thing is really comes down to market sentiment. Can this hype go on as long as it can? And that depends on the next segment, right?
So if you recall in the beginning, I mentioned that there's going to be a new segment in this What Q You Know show. So this is the idea that I have. You know how every week the US market has a schedule of what is the report that's going to be churned out, and a lot of investors use that calendar to kind of estimate or predict where the market is going to go.
It's a proxy lah.
It's a proxy. And very often, this calendar is very transparent. It is posted on the website. You can go and check it out yourself. But what I plan to do, since the show is called What Q You Know, is to look at the calendar and try to see what kind of numbers, or at least what is the trend of all these reports are going, and try to predict and see where the market is going to go in the next 1 week. And then the following week, we're going to come back to the show and we're going to see who is right and who is wrong. And then we're going to do a review about it.
Yeah, okay. Sounds good.
Okay, so first of all, let's look at this week's calendar first.
Yep, big week.
Yeah, this week is going to be a big week. It's going to have reports talking about the consumer price index, which is the report that indicates the inflation rate in the US.
The US has been trying to tame lah.
Correct.
After all these years, right?
And apart from that, there's also going to be FOMC meeting.
On the same day.
On the same day. And this FOMC meeting is a meeting for the Federal Reserve Committee meeting to sit down together and decide whether they are going to increase or to cut the interest rate. And after that, obviously, the Fed Chair, Jerome Powell, is going to have a press conference to talk about what is their decision. So the market is going to be closely looking at all these reports to determine where is the direction of the market. First of all, the first question, what do you think the inflation number is going to look like? Is it going to be higher than the previous report? Or do you think that inflation is going to come down a little bit? To give you a little bit of background so that you can play with the numbers over there, the market predicts that the CPI index for May is going to be at 0.3%. The previous number is also 0.3%. So the market is expecting no change in terms of CPI. Yeah, the core CPI over year on year is estimated to be at around 3.6%. I think that's also roughly quite in line with the past report.
Expectations
as well. Right. So what do you think the CPI number is going to look like? And what do you think the FOMC decision is going to be?
I think it's going to be the same, 0.3, and no rate cuts for now.
Okay, and because of that, do you think the market is going to go up or going to go down?
I think the market may go up, depends on Powell's speech as well. If it's going to indicate, because like you said about investment, it's always about predicting the future. Yeah, okay, inflation has stabilized. That's how the market will perceive. Okay, it did not increase. That's a good news. Consensus is, you maintain at 0.3. Let's maintain at 0.3. And if there's no cuts in rates, it's okay. It's in line with expectations. But if Powell said, okay, you know what, we are seeing some stabilization, we may consider a rate cut or two, then it changes the game. Then the market is going to be happy. I think market is going to be happy maintaining as it is.
Now, this is what I think. CPI is a report where economists compile a basket of goods and track the price to see where it is going. So one of the items in that calculation is oil and gas. And oil and gas price has been going down.
Yeah.
Right? Today, Brent price is below $80 per barrel.
Yep.
I think that will contribute to a lower CPI in this report. So while market expects it to be at 0.3%, same as the last report, I have a feeling it's going to come down. And inflation coming down is always a good news to the market today, right? But I agree with you that maybe the Fed may not want to cut interest rate right now, because the Fed chair has always mentioned that he wants to have more evidence to call a cut. But if CPI report is coming down and he decides to hold the interest rate, I think it also puts pressure on him, because don't forget, Europe has already started to cut interest rate.
I think Canada also cut.
Canada also cuts interest rate.
Last week.
If the US don't follow, then what will happen is that the US dollar may suddenly look a little bit too expensive. Yeah, because when interest rate is high, your forex is also going to appreciate.
Yeah.
If it appreciates too high, then suddenly your goods and services will start to look expensive. People will turn away to cheaper currencies to invest. So if the Fed choose to maintain the interest rate, I think the pressure is high.
I think definitely you to think about the interest that they have to serve as well on their debts, right? So
Right.
that will also may have an impact on how
Yes.
the chair looks at the rate.
Yeah. But the pressure on the Fed, the market doesn't care. Investors don't care. I think what investors care is more on the CPI numbers. So my prediction is that CPI number is going to come down. So I think this week is going to be a fantastic week for the stock market. Okay.
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 So
So
0.2.
yeah, Yeah, let's put it at 0.2.
0.3.
Yeah. Well, we are just throwing numbers, we are trying to have a debate over here. It is not to say that the numbers is going to be as what we say it's going to be. So next week we're going to come back and see where this is.
Let us know what you think the number would be. Maybe you have a better inkling than us.
Yeah, so with that, also let us know whether you like this new format of What Q You Know, whether there's any other interesting topics that you would like us to cover. But nonetheless, I would like to thank the Coffee Break once again for providing us with all the juicy news every single week.
Remember to subscribe to stay informed.
Right, see you guys again next week.
Ciao.